As you know, we are learning a Sicha a week, which is neither here nor there. We're not learning a Sicha a week. We're not learning a Sicha anymore every week. Because to learn a Sicha in whatever little time that we have is quite deficient. But what we've done is, we've chosen, instead of learning a Sicha for the Parsha, for example, to learn Sichos that reveal to us some of the secrets of the narrative, the story of the Torah. Of course, we believe that the Torah is before the world, Kadma L'Olam. We believe that the Torah is Nitzchi, the Torah is forever. And consequently, the stories of the Torah, although Ein Mikra Yetzi Midei Pshuta, we believe that they occurred, historically, they actually occurred, are the secret of God's wisdom, at least in as much as it relates to history, to our world. It means the story of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the Shvatim, Yosef, are the story of all of us. So last year, for better or for worse, we did the Yossi, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. This year we're doing the Shvatim. This is our first Sikh on Vayigash. So far we learned Vayeshev and Miketz, which means, I don't know how many more weeks we have till the end of the year, but eight. I would like to finish Vayigash and Vayechi. I don't know if that's realistic. Can I do all the stuff that we have to do in 8 weeks? If I don't, I'll have to decide next year whether I want to continue or I want to start with Shmois. I'll get to that point in Mitzvah Hashem in due time. But we've been learning about Yosef and his brothers. That's the name of the theme of this year, Yosef and his brothers. Yosef and his brothers represent exile, they represent Golos. To be sure, so does Yaakov. Yaakov also represents Golos. But the Golos of Yaakov is quite different than the Golos of Yosef and his brothers. And of course, as you will discover, the Golos of Yosef and his brothers is quite different than their descendants. Yosef and his brothers had children who would really suffer in Mitzrayim. And that real suffering in Mitzrayim will not begin till Sefer Shmois, till Exodus, which doesn't begin till every one of them is gone. Any one of Yosef's brothers were alive, Mitzrayim's Golos did not begin in earnest. In other words, even when the Torah talks about Golos, it categorizes Golos into levels. You have the Golos of Yaakov, the Golos of Yosef and his brothers, and the Golos of the children. The Golos of Yaakov is behind us. The Golos of Yosef's children is ahead of us. We're in the middle of the Golos of Yosef and his brothers. And what we learned about the Golos of Yosef and his brothers is that Yosef somehow thrives in Golos. He achieves his highest levels. Matzliach b'yodei. Yosef achieves the highest height in Golos. What's the code? What's the key to Yosef's incredible success in Golos? The answer is Vayihi Miketz. Vayihi Miketz means Yosef HaTzadik recognizes Golos. And he reacts exactly as he's supposed to react. When the Eibishter starts to behave towards you like he doesn't know you, and you're a nobody, and you're a nothing, you can get upset and wait for him to smile at you again and be frustrated, or you can say, this is what he wants, I'll cut him slack. I know he's there, I know he's watching, he'll do it his way, I'll take whatever he gives me. And when Yosef is tested time after time, and he continues to give the Eibishter more rope, he says, I know you're there, I'll just give you more rope, you'll pull me in when you're ready. So in the words of one of the Sichos that we learned before, Vayihi Miketz, when Yosef reaches a point where it can't get any worse, he becomes a king. In Golos. That's Yosef's story. Yosef's brothers have a very different story. They go through a very complicated Golos. And what's complicated about their Golos is that they're in Golos at the hands of their own brother. They just don't know it. Which means the Shvatim are experiencing the senselessness, where is God? If I love God so much, shouldn't God love me back? And they find themselves in this situation where this guy's picking on them, and they don't even know why. They have no idea why Yosef is picking on them. Of course, Yosef is picking on them for a number of reasons, but to use the form of our discussion, because Yosef is putting them through a Golos. It's his job. Yosef is putting his brothers through a Golos. And as you'll see soon, in addition to Yosef putting his brothers through a Golos, Yosef is keeping score on the Golos of Yaakov as well. So the second half of Pashas Miketz, Yosef has made Golus into a miracle. He's made Golus itself into a success story. His brothers are now lost in a Golus that Yosef himself is organizing. Yosef is choreographing. And it's about to end. Yosef's brothers come, he accuses them of being spies. He absolutely confuses them, takes away Shimon, sends him home. They don't know what to think. They run out of food, they come back a second time. As soon as they come back a second time, and Yosef sees Binyamin, everything changes. You're honest people, you're good citizens, you didn't lie to me, all is well. And it turns out so good that the brothers let their guard down. Yosef so convincingly lets them think that he trusts them, they let their guard down. And when they leave, he chases them. My goblet. Ganavs, Ganon, right? So the Golus begins again. And again it's an orchestrated Golus. Yosef HaTzadik is putting his brothers through whatever they need to go through. All the Mepharshim talk about what it is that Yosef is trying to get from this whole story. He's not just trying to get even with them, he's trying to actually help them by making it initially difficult for them. And the end of the story is Yehuda puts his face in Yosef HaTzadik's face and says, okay, it's me and you. There's no 12 of us, it's me and you. And the beginning of Ayigash is incredibly intense. Yehuda stands up to the king. He puts his face, puts his nose in Yosef HaTzadik's face and says, listen, this is me and you. And this is over. This game of playing with us, this game of working us over, of keeping us off balance, of making us not know what's going on, is finished. It's a very, very intense moment of Yehuda approaching Yosef. Yehuda says his piece. And somehow, in whatever it is that Yehuda says, Yosef learns that whatever his brothers needed to go through, they've gone through. Whatever Golus Yosef has to orchestrate for the sake of his brothers is done. Whatever it is, Yehuda said the right words. Yehuda told Yosef, without Yehuda realizing what he's saying to Yosef, if you will, we got the message. We got the message. If I had to guess, of course emphasis on the word if, I would say Yosef is tested, and how does he deal with his test? He just gives more rope. He believes, trusts. The brothers are tested, and they're trying to figure out what the test is. And the test continues until Yosef feels that Yehuda has admitted that when you're tested, you just give more rope. Abish knows what he's doing. There's a plan. Trust him. And at that moment, there's no need for the Golus. So the Torah says that there's a turning point. The turning point is where Yosef HaTzadik decides his brothers have been healed. His brothers have undergone whatever was necessary for this stage in the exile, and it's time to end it. And it ends in a moment. He says, Ani Yosef. And it's gone. All the confusion, all their darkness, all their frustration, all of their why is God doing this to us is gone in 2 words, Ani Yosef. But when you think about the philosophy of Ani Yosef, you think about the timelessness of Ani Yosef, when you think about the idea that Ani Yosef is for always, there's a very important thing you need to remember. Not Ani Yosef, I Yosef have shown up. Ani Yosef means I've been Yosef this whole time. I was Yosef when you didn't understand what I was doing. I was Yosef when you were trying to understand why God is doing this to us. I was Yosef when you were deciding that it's a punishment for this sin, that sin, or the other sin. Ani Yosef. So in the words Ani Yosef, you have 2 messages. And I guess that's the spirit of all of this. Message number 1. Golus is over. But message number 2 is Golus was never Golus. What is the philosophy of Golus? I talked about this a number of times already. The philosophy of Golus is not suffering. Golus is not about pain. It's about uselessness. It's about chronic nothing.
Separation.
The problem with Golus is, what's the point? And it's a what's the point that goes on and on and on. And the Ani Yosef doesn't only say Golus is over. The Ani Yosef says it had a point. But the only way for that point to be realized is that until this moment, you were not able to know the point. Let's say that again. These parshiyos are about Golus. Vayetze vayishlach is Yaakov's Golus. Beginning with Shmois is the descendants' Golus. Vayeshev, Miketz, Vayigash, Vayechid. This is the Golus of Yosef and his brothers. But they have very different journeys through Golus. Yosef's Golus is incredibly intense. Yosef thrives in Golus. Vayi Miketz. He accepts the challenges of God when it can't get any worse, and in one instant it becomes that it can't get any better. That's the story, right? Vayi Miketz is the turning point to Yosef's Golus. And the Vayimi Kates is the same thing. It doesn't only say from now on it's going to be good. It's going to say everything until now brought on the goodness that's from now on. In the brothers, the two words that accomplish that is Ani Yosef. Ani Yosef doesn't mean from now on I'm Yosef. I've been Yosef all along. The Golus is Yosef. The Golus is a part of the redemption. The Golus is the process. It seems meaningless. It seems endless. It seems purposeless. Because if it didn't seem meaningless, if it didn't seem endless, it wouldn't accomplish what it needs to accomplish. But Ani Yosef. Yosef has been choreographing the whole thing all along. And as the Rebbe says in the Sichos, the moment, whatever it is that needs to be done, is accomplished, in an instant, it ends. Ani Yosef. It stops right away. In 2 words, the entire reality of their world changed. Completely, radically. Ani Yosef. So you have in front of you a maimed and a sicha. The maimed is, the first paragraph is the beginning of a maimed, the second paragraph is the end of the maimed. I cut and paste. It looks very nice and neat, but it's actually from 2 different pages. The first paragraph and second paragraph are separated by 8 or 10 pages of maimed. Actually 11 pages of maimed. Okay, I just gave you the beginning and the end. The second and the third page of the Maimed is a Sicha. But there's a difference between the Maimed and the Sicha. The difference between the Maimed and the Sicha is that the Maimed is the story of Yosef and his brothers. Meaning to say, how there is a Golus, and there's an Ani Yosef in the Golus, and there's Ani Yosef at the moment the Golus needs to end as it relates to the brothers. The Sicha is the same thing. Ani Yosef. That means there's a Golus, and the Golus has a purpose. And the moment the Golus achieves the purpose, the Golus ends. But as it relates to Yaakov Avinu, not to the brothers. V'lo yochel Yosef lehisapak means Yosef can't contain himself. He can't hold himself back. He has to tell them the truth. Why? Because there is a point to everything. And the moment, the instant, that point is met, you can't keep a person in Golus an extra second. Yosef could not contain himself from all the people around. Vayikra, he calls, take everybody out of the room. There was not a man present when Yosef shows himself to his brothers. The meaning of this pasuk is, the instant Yosef recognizes that whatever Golus his brothers needed to endure, they endured, it instantaneously ends. Why? Because the Golus was for this moment. But to say it differently, this moment is the pneumius of the whole Golus, so there's no hesitation. Golus doesn't have to be replaced by Geula. Golus has to be revealed to be Geula. So the moment the brothers' experience in Golus has run its course, we don't know exactly what the magic words were, but Yehuda said what needed to be said. At the moment Yehuda said what needed to be said, Yosef says, we've accomplished what needed to be accomplished. Now let's reveal the truth of the story that's been going on the whole time. Ani Yosef. I've been Yosef from the first time I laid eyes on you. It's all for a point and a purpose. Now the Maimed is very Kabbalistic. This Maimed and the Kabbalistic middle paragraph, which you see I've written lines to give you markers about what we should and shouldn't read, is very reminiscent of how Chassidus explains the story of Esther. The book of Esther is also a story of Golus, maybe the darkest. The book of Esther is the story of the Holocaust. But the book of Esther, the Holocaust didn't happen. In our parents' lives, the Holocaust did happen, but the book of Esther is the story of the Holocaust. That's what it is. To wipe out every man, woman, and child. That's the story. It's the darkest Golus imaginable. And in that story you have Balayla Hahu, Nadu Dashnas HaMelech. In that night the king's sleep was stirred. Balayla Hahu, Nadu Dashnas HaMelech is very similar to V'lo Yochel Yosef Lehisapak. What do we know about Balayla Hahu, Nadu Dashnas HaMelech? What we know about Balayla Hahu, Nadu Dashnas HaMelech means that the king means Hashem. And sleep doesn't mean that the Eibishter is sleeping. Sleep means Golus. Sleep means Hashem is allowing us to wander around aimlessly, to say, what's the point? You want to punch me? Punch me. But don't make me wander around indefinitely. The moment the purpose of the Golus is achieved, the Gula happens. Because the Gula is the truth of the Golus itself. Balaylahu, in the middle of Golus, there's an awakening. There's a clarity. The king wakes up. It's the Ani Yosef of that story. But there's another aspect. And the other aspect is as follows. If we would compare Golus to sleep, and Gula to awakenedness, there's two distinct concepts. One concept is Golus is sleeping, and the second concept is Gula is being awake. But in Balaylahu, Nadu Dashnas HaMelech, there's an unusual feature. The unusual feature is, in the words of the Gemara, Kata Abda Dachashveda Shanan. The Golus isn't ending. We're continuing to be in Golus. But this phase of the Golus, this confusion, passes. In the book of Esther, the Beis HaMikdash is not rebuilt. In the book of Esther, the Jewish people don't leave Golus. But a specific event is redeemed. So Chassidus says it doesn't mean Hashem woke up, which would mean Golus ended. It means that in the middle of Hashem's sleep, in other words, in the middle of Golus, there's a clarity. Nadu Dashnas HaMelech means he's still sleeping, but the sleep is revealing truth. That means Golus isn't over, but you're seeing God in the Golus. Or you're seeing that the Golus is God. And that's Balaylahu, Nadu Dashnas HaMelech. It's not the end of Golus, it's all of a sudden Golus says, he's been here the whole time. And that's the V'lo Yochel Yosef Lehisapak. It's the same story. Golus isn't over. Golus is yet to begin. Yaakov was in Golus, the Shvatim and Golus, they're all setting up the misery of their children. But for them, Golus is over. So the king is still asleep. But as it relates to them, Golus is over. So Chassidus says, how can you be awake in the middle of your sleep? If Golus isn't over, how can there be clarity? And the only answer is if that clarity comes from the very, very highest levels. The idea that there is still a sleep, there's still a confusion, and yet in the middle of the night you see clarity, has to come from the highest levels. That's how we interpret Balaylahu Nadu Dashnas HaMelech, and that's how the Rebbe interprets this pasuk. Yosef says, all men out. Says the Alter Rebbe Rashab, says Kabbalah. You know what men means? Atzilus. All men out. Adam ha'elyin. Yosef is showing himself to his brothers and says, what you are about to see cannot even be seen by Atzilus. The presence of Hashem, the clarity that they gain, at that moment when Yosef says, Ani Yosef, is revealing godliness higher than Adam. When the Kohen Gadol went into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, it says, V'chol Adam lo yeh b'yomed. All men had to clear out. Says the Chazal, Adam sheyeshev ala kisei. That means Atzilus had to clear out. The meeting between the Kohen Gadol and HaKadosh Baruch on Yom Kippur is higher than Adam ha'elyin. And that's V'lo Yochel Yosef Lehisapak V'yikra Hotziu Kol Ish. The meeting that's going to take place right now is, Golus isn't over. It's far from over. But you're going to see clarity in Golus. To see clarity in Golus, to use Hasidic terminology, has to be even higher than Geula itself. And that's the reading of this pasuk. Let's look what I underlined. Middle paragraph. V'lo yochal le'yosef lehisapak. Yosef cannot contain himself. Why? Because the truth of this entire event has been a healing, a repairing of the Jewish people, not a suffering of the Jewish people. Therefore, the moment, whatever it was that Yehuda said, the birur, the zichoch, the process that the children of Yaakov and Yosef were going through, achieved its purpose, automatically it has to show its truth. And that's why it's so abrupt, so spontaneous. The godliness that's being revealed here is not the godliness of Geula. It's a godliness that you can see in the middle of darkness. It's even higher than Geula. Lo yochal esapak. Yosef cannot contain himself. I'm reading only the underline. Vayikras, he calls. Hoitziu kol ish me'alai. Everybody out. But who's everybody? Al derech v'chol adam le'yeh b'yel mayed. Atzilus is not able to be here. Godliness that's called Adam cannot suffer, cannot experience what's about to happen. Because what's about to happen is not Geula. What's about to happen is the Geula in the middle of a Golus. It's the middle of Golus. And you see God. The God that you can see in Golus is even higher than the God you can see in the Zman HaGeula. Adam ha'elyin, Atzilus has to step out for Yosef to say to his brothers, Ani Yosef. V'hainu, in other words, is al gilui shalamayla mikol ha'ishtalshos. It's a revelation which is altogether above ha'ishtalshos. V'loi amad ish itay. No man stands with Yosef. A man doesn't mean a human being. It means even Adam ha'elyin. Hanashagilu b'neshamas Yisrael levad. The revelation is to the Jewish soul alone. But what level of the Jewish soul? Not the Adam of the Jewish soul, the Paltiel Yid. The Yid that can see God in Golus. Li'eshagilu b'chiras atzmos hakeser. This is a Pesach reference, right? Hashem himself, not even Atzilus. Vayikra, and he calls, Haytziyu v'geimer. All of reason, all of order. Geula cannot be present when this revelation is going to take place. Because this is bringing together of opposites. Shidolamayla mikol seder ha'ishtalshus is completely higher than ishtalshus. V'lay amad ish itay. No man stands with Yosef HaTzadik behisvada. When he shows his brothers that this entire time it's been Ani Yosef. It's not Ani Yosef from now on, it's been Ani Yosef the whole time. Shagilu Neshama Yisrael Dafkin. When it says here Neshama Yisrael, it means Paltiel Yid Yechida. Because in the time of Golus, the only level of the Neshama which is so strong that it can shine like a twinkling star in the night is the Paltiel Yid. And that's the significance of Yosef HaTzadik revealing himself to his brothers. In one instant, Golus is redeemed. One instant, Golus is shown to have never been Golus. Now, in the next pages, you have the exact same story that I just told you as it relates to Yaakov Avinu. Okay? I'll do it next week.